So, good afternoon, dear sir, and all our viewers. Today we have with us Dr. Shamim Mondal. A warm welcome to you, sir. Firstly, I would like to introduce you. To begin with the educational background, sir has completed his degree of BSc in economics from University of Calcutta. So, sir also has a degree of MA in economics and PhD in economics from University of Rochester, USA. Sir has teaching experience, industry, and consulting experience. To name a few roles, he has served as an associate consultant at the Analysis Group in Boston, associate professor at Alliance University School of Business in Bangalore. Currently, he is serving as a program chairperson at NMIMS Mumbai. We are happy to have you here, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So shall I begin with the questions?
Yes, sure. Please go ahead.
So the first question for today is, what are your views on the changing landscape of MBA education and employment market in the wake of COVID times, and what are Industry 4.0 requirements for future-ready graduates?
Okay, that's actually a very contemporary and pertinent question today. So there are two parts to it from what I understand. One is that you want my views on how things could change due to COVID, and the second part is about Industry 4.0. So let me try to handle the COVID question first. Of course, it is a major disruption in life as we know. And of course, like our occupations, our professions, managers, they are definitely part of, like the entire journey as living humans. So of course, whatever is there in terms of, the challenges that we face as people, as students, as anything that we do, there is going to be challenges as well for managers. And the key thing would have to be how to adapt to this. So of course, the workplace itself might actually change, because now we are actually in a situation where basically the work between home and between, let's say, a workplace, a fixed dedicated workplace, that barrier is sort of breaking. So along these lines, what would have to happen is that there has to be a lot more collaboration through digital means, through internet, through any other telecommunication means that would need to happen between teams. Teams would need to come together, and managers would need to be appreciative and supportive of the challenges that people face. So for instance, especially for female workers, there were challenges earlier, and those challenges would now perhaps be magnified with a situation like this. So to enable people to be able to work from home is going to be a very important thing. And of course, like the new entrants to the workforce would need to be sensitized to that, and perhaps they will start demanding that. So that is on one side of this. Now, the Industry 4.0 part is that this is about digitalization, automation, and data-driven distribution. So obviously, this is a coming together of the physical world as we know it and the digital world through what we know as the industrial Internet of Things, and of course, the upcoming 5G Internet technology. So the management role itself, from that particular point of view, is unlikely to change. Of course, managers will be called upon to make decisions, but the skills that you would now need in in light of the changes that are happening in terms of the information that would be in front of the managers. So to make sense of that information environment would require a little bit change in the skills. So of course, I anticipate more focus being on comfortable with handling data that would actually come from alternate types of businesses. That a little bit perhaps more programming savvy. So today, of course, everybody comes with the mentality that, well, we will have to learn some degree of Excel. We will actually have to learn certain things, what to do. The next generation of MBA students would probably have to come with the mindset that, okay, perhaps we have to learn a little bit of Python. Right? And so that's basically being comfortable about, like things such as basic big data analytics and machine learning. The other thing, of course, is that managers are, like not necessarily required to be programmers, but they should at least have some degree of ability to basically understand what it means, right, to actually consume that type of data when a data visualization is presented. What is the right information to draw from? So, of course, for statisticians, that's not necessarily an issue. They have actually trained themselves to do something. But of course, for managers, it does not necessarily mean that they would have to actually go into the intricacies of the statistical methods that would be needed to essentially produce those kinds of numbers, statistics, and figures. But there is an absolute imperative to actually understand what those things mean and how that would impact decision. So that is the kind of changes that I anticipate from this industry 4.0 and of course the COVID-19.
Okay, so that's great. Now coming to the college, can you tell us more about your latest program offerings of NMIMS?
Yes, of course. So there are, of course, several programs that we offer, and our flagship program is the MBA that has been in existence for close to 4 decades now. But with requirements of times, there has been more offerings that we have done over the years. So at some point, it was felt that the MBA with different specializations, such as in finance, marketing, HR, you have data analytics now, you have got the supply chain management and the operations management, you have got information systems. So typically everything was housed under the same MBA. There was a need that was felt that perhaps MBA HR could be separated from this because the skill set perhaps necessary for HR might not be the same as with the other. So that was, like one differentiation that was made. By now, MBA HR is a fairly, mature program at SBM Mumbai, and it actually compares very well with all the leading other schools in India, including XLRI, which perhaps is the benchmarking which other schools. The other programs that we have come up with are much more sectoral and industry specific. So MBA Pharmaceuticals was something that was started, like a few years back, and it has actually been taken up very, very well. So that's one sector where, we have gone in, created a brand new program in partnership with industry, and that has now started actually getting a lot of traction. The MBA Law is another program where, the lawyers of tomorrow or the MBA managers of tomorrow, they are going to be, in some sense, wading into each other's areas for a certain reason. So MBA Law is another differentiated program that we have catered to a specific type of student, as well as the needs from the industry as it develops. The other programs that I want to briefly speak about is that there is a dual degree program that we have started in partnership with Purdue University in the US, which is the leading data analytics school in the world. And essentially the idea here is that there is a dual degree program. The MBA will be given by NMIMS in decision science and analytics, and the Purdue University will be providing an MS in business analytics and information management. And this again is consistent with what we were discussing about, let's say, the industry 4.0 and data analytics being at the forefront. So this could actually create some very specialized and skilled managers in this particular domain. And of course, we are also offering a new program in MBA in real estate management, and that basically is a very new offering. We are very excited about it, and we hope that this is as well received as the other ones that we have provided recently.
So now, since we're speaking about Industry 4.0, how do you ensure that the program curriculum stays relevant as per the Industry 4.0?
Yes, so there are two parts to it, right? One is the part where I discussed that creating specialists, right? So one program that we have floated, of course, as I mentioned, is the dual program with the Purdue University. So that would be very specialized, people who would be managers that would have very good data analytics skills and things like that. Right? So they would be in a very, very specialized way. The other thing that we, of course, understand is that this is not something that is going to be a particularly skilled, skill that would be only required for one set of managers. In some sense, this has to be baked in every manager that we graduate. So what we have done is that we have undergone a completely revamped curriculum. So at practically everything that we are doing, we basically now have some element of data analysis and analytics into the studies. Of course, there are certain subjects in which this perhaps not done, but in wherever there are opportunities for us to basically help students understand it from a data analytics and industry 4.0 perspective, we are trying to incorporate those things into our curriculum and our program design and course outlooks. So that is basically how we are, in one sense, creating very specialized set of MBAs who would be, more, comfortable with handling data, programming part of things, doing, very sophisticated statistical analysis. And on the other hand, people who would be able to actually make sense of what those specialized people will bring to them in terms of, the bottom line, and how to actually take in that information and use it for decision making aspects.
That's good to hear. So moving on to the next question, how does the current learning methodology develop leadership skill sets within the students at NMIMS?
Right. So that's very, very important. Of course, managers are decision makers, and by virtue of making decisions, they assume leadership. So that's critical, right? So there are, like one portion of it is hard skills, one portion of it is basically learning how to manage people, and what we love to call soft skills, right? And the other part, of course, is that there are things that you can learn inside a classroom, and whereas once you step outside of the classroom, there is the world where it is no more a question of whether you can write a question satisfactorily to, like satisfy a professor, but where your essentially reputation, job, everything is right. So that is the part where you are in a practitioner mode or practitioner. So of course, what we try to do in our like classroom situation is that we try to simulate the organizational setting in the classroom. Now this can be achieved in various kinds of ways. Now one pedagogical intervention that we have adopted is, of course, the case study method. And that's obviously not something very unique or new to NMIMS. I think like there are plenty of business schools that actually adopt the case study methods. It's inspired by the Harvard and Ahmedabad and all the other leading schools globally as well as in India. But what we do inside our classroom is that essentially, like this is a simulation of an actual situation. So students are highly encouraged to do this. The other thing that we try to do in terms of pedagogical invention is that they work in groups, and whenever they work in groups, they are allowed and they are sometimes encouraged to adopt leadership roles. And different group assignments would perhaps have different leaders at different times. So people get the opportunity to not only work in close collaboration, but also in groups. In the process, they get to learn each other. They learn the value of collaboration. So that's one important thing that goes. The other thing that we try to do over here is to encourage as much discussion as possible. So today, so if you think about what discussions that happens in the classroom, we obviously talk about case study as being a situation where students take charge. They discuss the scenarios that arise from various points of view. What should the protagonists do? How should they make this? But there's another way we actually try to encourage something else, which is what's known as a flipped classroom strategy. So no longer it is true that we actually go to our lectures and deliver lectures for the entire duration of the class. What we say is that, fine, our lectures could be, like in some sense looked into at your leisure hours. We may take this, like lecture for the benefit of our students, share a recording with them, just like I'm doing right now with you. And essentially what they would do is that they would actually, like look at that particular video or a small snippet of a video and then maybe come prepared in the next lecture. So what we can do at the time is to basically, like tell them that, look, now you have to actually solve problems in the classroom. So it is ultimately the job of the manager is to provide solutions to different scenarios that can arise, provide solutions to the different problems that an organization faces. And leadership is only a part of that. So to do that, this is basically how we, like change our pedagogy. Of course, COVID-19 and all of these things have mandated now that we have to actually work from home. We have to actually do these things while we are not necessarily in direct contact with each other. So we are also evolving as our pedagogy is changing. But that's basically at the forefront of what we do in terms of developing leaders.
Okay, so that's good to hear. So the next question, what has the significant contribution of alumni of your program in the last 5 years? Can you elaborate on the effect they've had on the programs?
Yes. So of course, we are very fortunate to have a very distinguished body of alumni. And the other important thing is that they are also very prepared to give back to their alumni. Okay? So obviously, there are many ways that they contribute to us. Like we have an industry internship program. So if you are thinking about ways that we actually bridge the gap between the classroom and the real life, of course, internship is a very big part of like any business school study. And that's where also our alumni is of massive help. They help us with identifying good areas of internship for our students. They offer them mentorships. They come to our campuses to sometimes headline some of the events that we have. Whenever we have asked our alumni body to actually come, to our campus to address students, to take part in a panel discussion, to be part of a conclave. They have been extremely generous with their time to essentially serve our student body. So I think like that's one specific, like one set of ways that they have been helpful. The other thing is that they have also created a corpus to help, like meritorious students who might not have necessarily the means to actually study at a school like SBM and NMIMS, and this try to provide financial help to such people. The alumni relationship cell, so this is a student-led body. They continuously interact with the alumni and our alumni to actually make sure that there are beneficial exchanges between the alumni and us.
So, sir, since we know that MBA program is pretty common, there are so many colleges in India. So, how is your program different from other similar programs within the country?
Right. No, that's actually a very pertinent question. So, I do not necessarily want to say anything bad about any other program. Every program is in their own ways good and provides a lot of students. But of course, our program is something that has evolved over a 40-year period, and that experience kind of shows in the way we train our students. So we are in the financial capital area in Mumbai. I mean, that's one of the locational advantages that we have, especially for the Mumbai campus. There are other campuses we have in Hyderabad, in Bangalore, all good and upcoming cities in their own right, which provides a lot of opportunities for students to actually get themselves high quality placements. But outside of that, I mean, what value do we add to our students? So one thing is that we actually encourage students to think about the knowledge acquisition in the form of what our dean likes to call CASH, K-A-S-H. So that is your knowledge, attitude, skills, and habit. So that is what we put as the forefront of a student's own development. Some of the other things that we have that actually helps us is basically that, ours is a school which offers a lot of different degree programs. And one of the programs that we offer is a PhD. So how can that help MBAs, you might think? Well, the thing is that to be able to offer a doctoral degree program, our faculty would have to be extremely active in research. They wouldn't have to actually be completely abreast of not only whatever is happening in the academic discipline, but in some sense, their goal is to, in some sense, inform the practice as well. Because in business studies, you do not get a high quality publication if you cannot find a reason that your research would actually, in some sense, impact practice. So in doing so, we also rely on our MBA students. So we work in partnerships with them, and we actively collaborate with them sometimes to essentially work in crucial research projects. And that helps them develop certain critical thinking skills, that helps them look at problems in a slightly different way, which is perhaps even more generalizable than what they would be otherwise doing in their managerial roles. So obviously that allows the student to also enhance their own reputation, and that actually is helpful. So of course, the other thing is that there is a very, very big student-led initiative that we have here in terms of forming clubs, forming many different types of co-curricular and cultural activities that if they are passionate about, they are free to do so. And we do not come in the way. We do as much facilitation as possible. There is always a faculty member who is actively involved in it, but they actually take a backseat. I mean, it's the students who actually own these things, and they do all of these activities, show their love, and basically create a very wholesome ecosystem and an environment, which maybe there are some other schools that try to do it in a particular way, but we do it, in my opinion, in a great way.
So actually the next question was right, is that the industry exposure and social connect programs, what your students participate in. I think you've covered that. So I'll just come down to the last question of the day, that what valuable advice would you like to give the students for them to have a prosperous career ahead?
Okay, so this, I'm not sure that I'm completely qualified to answer this, but I will tell you what has worked for me in my experience. So obviously, one thing is that develop this thing that I talked about, which is CASH, which is a way of thinking about how learning works. So learning is a never-ending process, right? What will enable you to learn is basically having this ability to be inquisitive, to be critical thinkers, and to essentially challenge existing views. So that is something that you have to be very comfortable with. like it's something that is important that, like sometimes you might feel that, okay, if I speak up, if I have questions, or people in authority, sometimes the people in authority could be the professors that you're in front of you. People in authority could be, like the manager that you are reporting to. But do not feel afraid to actually contribute your values, of course, respectfully and in any way. But do not feel that, like speaking your mind, challenging, like well-established views is anything bad at all. I mean, that's basically what we also try to inculcate in our students and their bodies. And basically, that's what we want, that critical thinkers who would be able to help us learn. So, and learn from others. So whenever you are in a managerial role, also invite these kinds of challenging views from your subordinates and others. And you will see that this will be very good. The other thing is that the society at large has, impacted you in numerous ways. So think about building a just, fair society. So think about all the people that have all the talent, may not be all that fortunate, and perhaps they might need your help. So think about being generous in terms of giving back to the society and participating in the society as a well-rounded individual. Make ethics the backbone of any decision that you would make, and ethical decisions can never be wrong decisions. The other thing that I would probably say is that build what is in addition to your intellectual capital, knowledge capital, build also something what is known as social capital. So that basically means that create a network of your peers, yours, like subordinates and your superiors, and create that ecosystem that will sustain. How do you actually make sure that that is there? Build a trusting relationship with people that you are part of. Build that element of, like this trust with them, and a mutual, and it should be based on also mutual benefits. Be prepared to serve others so that others will also serve you. Once you start giving back to others, you will start seeing how much the society at large will appreciate your value and how much they will be willing to give you back. So with this, I think like that's, if you follow these with a little bit of luck, I'm sure that you will actually do great.
Good. So we're done here with the interview. I am really glad that you could give us your time on this platform. So I would
Thank you very much.